Thursday. Welcome back. We are going to be doing a little more togetherness art today. I am a little bit early, I know, because my staff meeting turns out is going to be at 10:30. So I have to start a little bit earlier, end a little bit earlier than normal, but hopefully we'll still have some fun and do some fun art today. So let's just even go right into it, shall we? Remember, your landscapes are going to be due on Friday, but in the meantime, so this was our girl that we were working on yesterday. Stay focused with me, camera. Thank you very much. So this was our little planet Mercury lady. And pretty much finished her up. Still a little touching up to do. Not going to worry about it just yet. But instead we're going to start working on our new girl. So scooting the paper over a little bit. We need this one to be a little bit taller, because Mercury was our tiny little planet. This one, we're going to be doing planet Venus this time around. So we want her to be a bit taller, because the planet Venus is going to be roughly the same size as the Earth, based on actual planet size. So not ginormous like some of the other ones are going to be. We're going to have some very tall characters coming up. So head shape roughly around here. Fit in the frame, please. So when I was first working with the idea of doing a moon goddess, because that was what the whole thing started, was doing a moon character, I'd actually looked up a statue of the goddess Hera, who is one of my favorites, even though she's not probably as well known as some other Greek characters. Certainly people are more familiar with Athena, goddess of wisdom, Aphrodite, goddess of love. But I really liked the statue I'd found of Hera, and that's what kind of inspired me to do a commission with my good friend. And I used that statue to be like, this is kind of what I'm looking for. And she came through like a champ. So, in coming up with Venus, named after the Roman goddess of love, who's essentially the same as Aphrodite, did a little bit of hunting to see if I could find something equally inspirational. We have, of course, the planet of Venus. Here we go. It's not very bright. It has some very soft colors, a little bit of softer blue, almost lavender, this little pale kind of peachy color. So we'll have a little bit of fun with that. But I found this fantastic statue that I think is going to be kind of our basis for this new gal. So I'm keeping that on hand to kind of look back at and reference. We're not going to do exactly this statue, but I want to get a little bit of that feel. Planet Venus being probably one of our closest planets that we know about, especially that astronomers knew about way back in the day. Venus and Mars. They're the closest. They're the ones that we can actually see in the sky without a telescope. So, of course, they became very popular and related to with lots of different characters and lots of different religions and mythologies. So even though we primarily know Venus as the goddess of love and beauty, lots of other characters were associated with her. I was actually doing a little bit of research about it. There were a couple that I already knew. Like one of my favorite characters is Ishtar, who's from Sumerian mythology, Mesopotamia, like some of the earliest kind of mythos that's out there. I actually found out about her from a comic series. And then I looked in on it more. She is not only a goddess of love and beauty, but also a goddess of war, which is fabulous. Sorry, you probably can't see the feet too much. I'm just going to do quick feet sketchies. So I don't want to create something that is, I mean, obviously I want her to still kind of have that very feminine love and beauty feel, but I also wanted to go a little bit beyond that. She was also associated, let's see, other goddesses of love, Bes, the Egyptian goddess of luck, and Hathor, who's also Egyptian, who's a sky goddess. She is also love and beauty. I've heard her sometimes being related back to the goddess Isis, who was a maternal goddess, love, war, and magic. It's hers. That arm is way too long. There we go. Balance. Top of the arm, bottom of the arm should be pretty even. We'll play with that more. I already thought a little bit about what I want for her crown piece, because the symbol for the planet Venus looks a lot like the symbol for Mercury. It's a circle with a plus sign. So it means I have to be kind of careful and make sure not to make it too similar to Mercury's crown. So rather than having the circle in the middle, and even though that's something that's kind of similar in all of them, we're going to do the plus sign. It's going to be a little more prominent, I think, for her. And then the circular part, we're going to go a little crazy with. We're going to give her something that maybe is a little bit more Egyptian looking. Since Venus itself was largely, being one of our closest planets, a lot of people could see her. And she's got to be a little show-offy too. We're going to give her some much more obvious lips too. Which almost seem a little bit too low. Let's bring up her crown a little bit. That's better. It's always tough doing these heads tilting upwards, especially from the front. Side view is fine. Front view, it's a little bit more ridiculous. Because you want to draw the chin, but so often once you get the head tilted up far enough, you don't really even see where the chin is anymore. Let's go really Egyptian. In a lot of the ancient Egypt kind of artwork, you would see these long pieces of hair that would fall over the ears or in front of the ears. And then we're going to give her, let's give her some sweet hair. So a lot of the Aphrodite Venus pictures tend to give her lots of very flowy kind of hair. But I want to go with something a little abnormal. She's going to get this big old poof of hair. I'm going to change this arm. This is a very kind of pageanty arm, but I don't want her to feel pageanty. She's a goddess of beauty, but she is also a goddess of wool. She gotta be tough. Power girl walking. I'm gonna give her a little more of a figure two than the others had. Most of the others I kept kind of less curvy. We're gonna give her some curve. So, things we want to make sure we include. She's going to have to include some kind of a repeated symbol, which I think in this case is going to end up being more like the cross shape, because there's a little bit of that in Mercury, but she has the cross and the kind of half circle shape, which is mimicking the cross shape part of her. So Mercury symbol being circle plus ox horns. So the symbols I put into her outfit were that half circle and that plus. Because using the circle would be too much like our moon lady. She's got a lot of circles. But let's add to you, Missy. You're going to kind of be the most Egyptian looking of the group. So let's lean in. Let's lean in on that. A lot of Egyptian art will give these really amazing looking collar pieces. Tea break. Today's tea, peppermint. I don't know why. Wanted something sweet this morning. Now, all the girls up till now have had sort of a little crop top kind of going, showing off some stomach. And that allowed for, especially adding in that very important fringe type element. So, still have to find a way to get the fringe in there. You could probably add it around the collar. That might be the best place to put it, at the moment anyway. But let's also let's give her a belt. And let's have that mimic her collar a little bit. And we'll do the same thing. We'll divide it. We're gonna have some really interesting time with the colors on this, I think. I'm not gonna worry too much about the spacing on this yet, though. That'll be pen section. So in this kind of inspired piece, she's got some very flowy skirts on, and haven't done that too much. Did that a little bit with our Moon Lady, so let's go back to some flowiness. Let's give her a kind of different kind of cut though. So let's not too high, a little bit up the hip. That's pretty crazy looking. Let's see if it'll work. Let's make this curve a little bit sooner. There we go. So I'm sure I brought this up before, but I like drawing the edge of the skirt first. It gives me a chance to then go in and play a little bit with the wrinkles and such that happen to help give her that flowy look. This part though, it needs a little altering. Nope. Not working out the way I want, guys. Okay, a little better. Trying to sneak in more lines than was necessary. still haven't quite figure out where we're going to put the fringe yet. Maybe it'll end up being at the bottom of her skirt, and that'll be very similar to our moon lady. So I don't want it to be exactly like same position as our Mercury lady yet. We're going to have some repeats happen. That's just, you know, when you have a little theme going on, you're going to have only a certain amount of areas that you can kind of play with it. So, sometimes you just gotta make your own fist to see where everything needs to go. She's feeling a lot more war than she is feeling love and beauty, it seems. I mean, I'm not opposed to it. It's just I doubt that somebody would necessarily pick her as being Venus. So let's soften her expression just a little bit. Less angry eyebrows. She a tough girl, but she got her softer side. And I think that our fringe is going to have to happen around the skirt. So we'll leave that alone for now. Let's do something fun here. So because she's got such a kind of, it's almost like a dual nature, let's give her a little flowy sleeve shape here. The idea being she's kind of a dual-wielding goddess. She's got love and beauty. She also gets war, magic. Give her a sleeve there, and let's give her some jewelry on this side. Couple little bangles. Let's give her a little thumb ring. Just a few little elements, little fun things. So I'm sneaking just some little square blocks in here to kind of give it that plus sign feel. since our plus sign is kind of her repeating shape. Forgot that she's so much taller she doesn't fit in the camera. This morning we were getting ready to take a walk, and when both of us, me and my sister, when we get up and we start heading for the door, it gets very exciting for a minute because obviously it's, oh my gosh, it's time to go, it's walk time. Wesker will have this habit of, if he's in a really good mood, he will vanish for a moment. We'll be at the door, like, putting on coats and grabbing leashes, and Wiley's a lot more chill about going on a walk. He only gets really hyped up if Wesker starts running around. So he was just sitting there chilling. We're like calling for Wesker, like, what are you doing? We're getting ready to leave. Get back here. And he comes tearing into the room like he was 5 years younger, carrying a ball, as if he just had too much energy. He wasn't sure what to do with it. That must mean we can play. Let me grab my ball. But then it was like, oh no, it's walk time. And he immediately just drops it and just comes over to get his leash on. He used to try and take the ball on the walk with him, but I think he realized that that was dangerous, that there was the chance that ball would get stolen or carried off or something. So he quit with that part. He gets very anxious if he has a ball with him on the walk. He is very concerned that something might happen to it. I'm not sure what I'm playing around here with her crown. I think I'm just looking at the kind of swirls in the clouds that you can kind of see on the planet itself. So I'm just playing with that a little bit to see what I like. Alright, I guess it's unavoidable. Last thing we really need to add in here is the toes. I'm determined on this one. It's like adding in lots of toes is not something I'm normally doing. So that's the experiment really for this whole series, is me figuring out toes. There was a post going around on Facebook that one of my former students had posted of an artist who looked like he just finished this beautiful little piece, posted it online, and like an hour later went back and found that they only got maybe 2 likes on it, and that they were so devastated by it that they tore up their artwork. And people were chiming in with, oh yeah, I feel the same way. Oh yeah, it's so discouraging when you work so hard and then you post something up and nobody likes it. And it is very difficult to post your art online, and you hope for feedback, and maybe you get some, and maybe it's what you hoped for, and maybe it's not. Most of the time not. But I think it's so important just to keep in mind there are people out there who will scroll through things, and sometimes they will see something and they will like it, and sometimes they just won't. And you can't let your feelings, I guess, be completely devastated by this. You have to remember that it's very easy for people to scroll through things and look at something and go, oh, I like that, and then they just move on. They don't necessarily hit you up with a thumbs up or make a comment. And as frustrating as that can be, because, as an artist, you want your stuff to be seen. You want to have feedback. You want people to hopefully get something out of your work. But it's not always the case. It doesn't always happen that way. I said in my reply post, I had posted up a piece of artwork that I was happy about. I felt like I did a good job on it, and got a pretty decent response from it. I got, quite a few thumbs up, a couple of people reposting, sharing it. I'm like, that's great, cool. So I took a second piece that I had done, very similar to the first. I thought it looked a lot cleaner. I thought I did a bit of a nicer job on it, and not even half the amount of attention that the first one got. And I know it's not because it is a lesser piece of art. I know that I did just as good a job on it as I did the first one, if not a little better. There was even more detail to it. I think it came out a lot cleaner looking. But if I only went with what the response to it was, you would think that that second one was not as good as the earlier one. And I know that's not the case. I can look at them and go, no, there's no way. This one is just as good, if not better. But if you let yourself get down by the fact that some people respond and some people don't, I mean, it's not an accurate telling. Your skill is not determined by how many likes you get. I'm going to tell a little story, and I hope my mom, who's possibly watching, doesn't mind me telling this. But a couple years ago, she was going to these quilting conventions all the time. And she asked me to help her come up with a design for a quilt to enter in a show. She was like finally ready to put something in and win some money or win an award or anything. Just let's see what happens. She'd looked at all these quilts over the years and went, you know what, I feel like I could compete with some of those. So the theme was like an under the sea theme. So of course, me in my super nerdy self created a kind of mermaid-esque creature with hair just flying everywhere. If I did a pause in our art for a short sketch, it was pretty much a little mermaidy face, eyes closed, super peaceful looking. I gave her some fun fan ears, and then her hair went all over the place. Just out of town everywhere, floating through the water. And then in and out of the hair were fish. And the idea was that she was going to be this kind of really nice blues and greens, and then we would create all of these little, like even schools of fish. So a couple different fish that were made of similar fabric, and big fish, little fish, minnows, little starfish here and there, little sea creatures that were all kind of moving and living. So from a distance you would see this almost underwater scene of all these fish going through what would look like seaweed, but then you'd really look in close and you would see that there was this mermaid sea goddess figure. And I was excited about it. I really liked the design, how it came out. My mom was really into it. She did a beautiful job. Took it to the show. Did not win a huge prize. However, one of the people there, prize winner, like a woman who had entered the show multiple times, won multiple times, to the point where they would even ask her for, like she would get invited as a judge to come and judge other people's work. this other quilting artist that she looked up to chose hers as one of her favorites. So not a top prize, but did get kind of a recognition from a fellow quilter that she really looked up to. And the other quilters just talked about how much she loved her work and how beautiful it was. And it was fantastic. And I know that on some level there was some disappointment to not have won a bigger prize with it. But just knowing that one other person, someone that they respected, that my mom respected, and when I looked at her work later, I was like, oh my goodness, this lady is the real deal. To know that somebody else could like and appreciate it meant a lot. It's not always about having the most likes. It's about having the ones that mean more. So if you post your artwork online and you get one person who looks at it and likes it and says, oh my gosh, your work is beautiful and I'm so inspired by it, you have to count that as a success and really just kind of decide for yourself, what is it that you really want your art to do? Do you want it to reach a whole ton of people who can just, hit the like button and then move on? Or do you want to have one person that is moved and inspired by your work, either to do work of their own or to practice a little harder? I mean, even for me, I've been trying to get into some more professional shows. A couple years ago, I tried to get into a show here in Canton, local area. Did not make it in. I'm trying again this year. I don't know when they're gonna be announcing who's in or not. But I'll keep on trying anyway. I'd like to get in. But at the end of the day, I can hold up my artwork in front of my classes and have the kids all, ooh and ah and tell me that I should be a professional. And it's funny because, for them, they really enjoy my work. They like looking at it. They think that it's so great compared to what they can do. But if you look at it from, being able to make a living surviving as an artist, that's not a thing that's going to happen. And I'm fine with that. I mean, I never intended to go out and I've known quite a few art teachers, disappointing as it is, who have said that they tried to make it as an artist and it didn't work, so they decided to be an art teacher, as if it was like, well, I couldn't do the thing I wanted, so I'll just do this other thing, because why not? And that was never me. There was never a point where I'm like, I'm going to make it as an artist. No, it was always about being a teacher. And it eventually became to, I'm going to be a teacher teaching art. It's like, this is the thing that I feel most passionate about, is teaching kids. But the thing I feel most passionate about teaching them is art. So I always felt a little bad for the students that had the teacher that teaching was not their first choice. Art was their first choice. And they failed at it. And by fail, meaning they weren't able to produce enough work and get enough people to buy it. And that could mean, I'll discuss that in a second. That could mean any number of things. So they did art teaching as like a fallback. I'm definitely not a fan of that mentality. If you're going to be a teacher, you need to be a teacher. You need to want to teach. these kids are depending on you for learning to do some of this stuff, and it just breaks my heart to think that they might have a teacher who's only there because that was all they could do with their art degree then at that point. But going back a bit to making it as an artist, I mean, it's all about finding someone to pay for your stuff. That's really what it is. If you want to make it as an artist, you have to get people to buy your work. But there's so many different kinds of art out there, and there's so many different subjects, and you could be an artist that does really amazing, adorable unicorn posters, and every parent is buying your poster for their daughter, and that is a successful artist. You are making your living off of that. Back in the early 80s, 90s, I think, late 80s, early 90s, there was an artist who designed like every kind of folder with just these great cartoon kind of characters. I think her name was Lisa Frank. Everybody had a Lisa Frank binder. Everybody had Lisa Frank folders, because she just did these bright, colorful, fun designs with all of these different little characters and unicorns and dragons and just all over the place. I think unicorns and kittens were like her big thing. And her designs made a ton of money and got recognized, and it fell out of style. I mean, people try to look a little more sophisticated now, I guess. I don't know what the little kids are buying. I mean, I've been in middle school too long, and most middle school won't do designs on their folders. They'll just get regular folders, or they might be like sports related, or in the case of my nerds, anime related, ninjas and stuff. But in order to be a professional, you have to sell your work. And in order to sell your work, you need to find people who are willing to buy what you want to have. Unless you go the other way, in which case you're doing things that are very different from what anybody else is doing, almost to the point of being controversial, in which case you usually won't get recognized for your stuff until you're dead. I mean, I was even just watching the other night this pseudo YouTube documentary about a artist who did some really kind of dark stuff. We found him because my sister was looking at more stuff having to do with the science fiction Cthulhu mythos, which if you haven't heard of Cthulhu, you need to get out there and look up Cthulhu. I'm not even going to try to spell it, but it's a giant sea monster. In any case, this artist did some pretty crazy dark stuff. And in the beginning of his career, he was not very popular. People thought his work was too outside the box, because at the time in photography, everyone was trying to do super realistic looking pictures, and he wanted to do like things that were out of focus. Oh no, and trying to just do all sorts of experimental type things with his photography. And he eventually moved on to painting, and his painting is got some pretty spooky stuff. It's very, you'd probably only expect to see stuff like that around Halloween. It was great stuff. It was beautiful work. But even with that, and I could recognize how beautiful it was, I would probably not buy any of it because I wouldn't know where to put it. I mean, be like, this would be a great thing that I could put up at Halloween, and that would be it. I wouldn't want something quite so dark and scary up in my house, 24/7, 365 days a year. And even though he's recognized as a brilliant artist at this point, he wasn't at his time. So even having the idea of, I'm going to make it with my art, it's like, number one, you got to work super hard. Number two, you got to find a style that people will want to buy. People like your work and want to, commission you, yay. I mean, I've been on like DeviantArt and other places that post art, but nobody's ever approached me and be like, hey, do you do any commissions? And I'm not looking to do that. I mean, I got enough on my plate being a teacher. I have no idea if I put it out there and be like, hey, I'm going to do commissions now. If anyone would be interested. So I'm going to try this art contest first. We'll see. I mean, even stuff like this. This is definitely my jam. This kind of little character creation. Very anime style. Japanese style. There are tons of people out there who can draw this style way better than me. Like actual artists in Japan. I'm going to keep doing it though. Should find a way to properly... I mean, I have a good scanner. But, like, all the little imperfections end up showing up when you scan it. And when you see people posting their digital work. Digital work has such a great way of hiding every tiny little miss. Like, even just looking at my girl here, and it's probably even too small to see, but there's little areas where the pencil didn't get quite close enough to the edge, so there's a little like white spot. There's tiny little dark spots or little places where the pencil went just a tiny bit outside, and you don't really notice it when you're just looking at the paper here. But once you scan it and put it on the computer, and you can like zoom in to 500 times the scale, all of a sudden it's like, oof, oof. Let's see if there's a good way of putting it on the computer and fixing it a little bit to get rid of some of those oofs. Although when you do that, it doesn't feel quite as real. Years ago, I did a series of characters, and this is gonna, bear with me, this is gonna sound insane. Actually, so let me even start before talking about these characters. Years ago when I was in college, and eBay was something that was, still kind of just getting started. A friend of mine discovered a group of collectors who were altering My Little Pony dolls, stay with me, and reselling them for more money. So they were like doing things like taking off the beauty mark symbol on their booties and painting new ones, or actually dyeing the pony into a different color, like making them super dark blues or even black, brilliant reds, just having a lot of fun with the colors, and then reselling them. And my friend got really into it. She's like, oh, I'm going to try this. And, you know, me being the artsy, craftsy person that I am, I was like, cool, you know, show me how. Let's give it a try. So we started buying My Little Ponies, you know, for however much they were at the time, you know, like $5, $6, $7. Buying some dye, buying some paint, or using the paint that I had. And we started altering My Little Ponies and putting them on eBay to sell. This was way before Etsy, by the way, but it was the same kind of idea, kind of making stuff and selling it. And we did pretty good. Most of the time we were able to make our money back. I did I turned one of them using some clay because we found out you could add Sculpey clay and very carefully bake the ponies so you could add other features to them. And I made one into a Harry Potter Buckbeak, the hippogriff. So I gave him altered the head to give him a bird beak and got some real feathers to make wings. It was pretty epic. Sold it for a decent amount of money too. But told you that story to tell you this story. I had created a group of ponies, all with like Halloween kind of themes, little underworld characters and ghost ponies and serpent ponies and things like that. And I think I ended up selling most of them. I don't have any of them anymore, that's for sure. I don't have any of those ponies anymore. That eventually that whole scene kind of dried up. The people who were, you know, buying them, you know, got the ones they wanted and they were good, and fewer people started making them, so it just kind of, you know, it just kind of faded away. But I had decided to draw human versions of this family of ponies. And one of them, I had given humongous hair like this. And I always loved that design, and I was always like, oh man, just really liked the way that hair looked. And I hadn't really figured out where else I could use it, so for some reason, it worked out again. It was just reminding me of those long ago years when I was making and selling My Little Ponies. I'm pretty sure my parents thought I was nut bar. I mean, it got crazy. It got to a point where I was even like, I mean, people talked about putting in different hair on the ponies, taking out their hair and putting in different hair. I would take the hair out and then I would put in, I think I had a couple I put in like wire. I found this really cool blue and silver wire and gave them like crazy hair. Anyway, I could go on forever about all the crazy things I did with those My Little Ponies. Making all sorts of crazy characters. But we won't have time for that. In fact, looking at the clock now, I'm going to have to get going. So, thank you guys for joining me today, starting this new character. I'll be back tomorrow working on her a little bit more at our regular time. Hopefully we'll get to the point where we can start coloring her. We're going to have some fun with playing with these pale pastel colors from the actual planet. For those of you working on your landscapes, make sure to send me in any pictures if you have questions. Otherwise, I'm I'll be looking forward to seeing those all turned in on Friday. You guys take care. Stay clean. Wash your hands. And I will talk to you tomorrow. Have a great day.